Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Rachel Sundin. I'm the Deputy Consul-General here at the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. And I'm here with my colleague Faith Biko from Education USA. Education USA is a U.S. government-funded initiative to supply information for people that are studying in the United States. We're here today to talk to you about the student visa process, applying for colleges, and to dispel any myths or rumors you may have heard, and also answer any questions that you may have had about the student visa application process. The United States welcomes all bona fide students to study there. There are over 1 million students from around the world currently studying in the United States, and over 3,000 of them are from Kenya, and we would love to see more. Kenyan students study in a range of different types of colleges, from community colleges to public universities to private colleges and universities. With over 5,000 degree-granting colleges and universities in the United States, there's a perfect school for everyone. And all foreign students who are admitted to colleges or universities must obtain a student visa or an F category visa in order to study. The process is very straightforward, and we can talk a little bit about it today. The key thing to remember is that every student must obtain a document called an I-20 from the college or university where they plan to enroll. But don't worry about all this. It's all laid out on our website in very easy to follow steps. But now I'd like to turn it over to Faith for a moment to talk about Education USA.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi everyone, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Again, my name is Faith Biko. I'm the Education USA advisor here at the US Embassy in Nairobi, and we are glad to see you online this afternoon. And my work is basically to assist Kenyan students who are applying to go study in the US, navigate that process, and I'm going to present to you the 5 steps to US study. The first thing that you need to do is to research on schools. As Rachel has said, over 5,000 institutions that you can apply to. You need to conduct research and reduce that number to a manageable number. So what we tell you is that in the 5,000 schools, what you need to do is to come up with research questions about what would make a school a good fit for you. And once you come up with those questions, then you need to filter out the schools and look for at least 9 schools that are a good fit for you. Once you've researched the schools, the next thing you need to do is to find out, can they give you the amount of funding that your family or you as a student is looking for? It's going to cost you between $15,000 to $72,000 per year, and that's a huge amount of money to some people. So if you're looking for financial aid, then you need to ask yourself, how much financial aid am I looking for, and how much can my family contribute? So if your family can contribute an X amount of money, that means that the other amount of money will require to come from the university. That means you will need to look for universities that can meet that financial gap that you have. Schools can give you merit-based scholarships. They can also give you need-based scholarships, whereas we have schools that are need-blind. So you could be coming from a very rich family, and because they like your application, they are blind to your need and they admit you to the school. So once you've removed the financial bit out, what do you need to do? Step 3 is apply to that particular institution. Every school has an application requirement, and you will find that most of the application requirements overlap. And I'm just going to give you the general application requirements that most of the schools are going to request for. Number 1 is test scores. So for undergraduate students, we are talking about SAT tests or ACT tests, and sometimes TOEFL. For graduate students, we are talking about the GRE and the GMAT. Once you are through with the requirement for tests, then what you also need to do is to look for recommenders who are going to write letters of recommendation for you. At the undergraduate level, we are basically talking about students who taught you at the high school level, 3 teachers, and one of them is supposed to be your career teacher or your career counselor to write a letter of recommendation for you. The other 2 teachers are basically your subject test teachers. So you could choose your biology teacher and your English teacher to write your letter of recommendation. Then when we talk about letters of recommendation, at the graduate level, we're talking about professors who taught you writing letters of recommendation for you, and maybe you had an industrial attachment. You could go back to your employer and have that employer write a letter of recommendation for you. Or maybe you've been working for a while, then you will require to go back to your employer and ask them for a letter of recommendation. Another general application requirement is essays and statements of purpose. So for undergraduate students, you're going to write an essay about yourself that is going to paint a picture of who you are to the admissions officers in the US. And then at the graduate level, we talk about statements of purpose that again tell the institution where you've been academically and sometimes in terms of employment, and where you are at and where you intend to go, and how joining that institution is going to help you in terms of meeting your academic needs. And then after that, fill in the application form and submit it. Once you've submitted it, the school is then going to either accept you or reject you. If they accept you, there are other things that they're going to ask you for. Then they can send you the I-20. And that's where my colleague Rachel comes in to talk to you about the F1 visas. And at this juncture, I'm going to turn back the conversation to Rachel.
Okay. Hi. I am going to talk about student visas. I see we have a couple questions here, so I'm going to take a couple questions. Several people have asked, are you allowed to work in the United States while you're a student to offset the cost of your studies? So yes, there are several different options available for working. As a general rule, anyone that is on a student visa, an F visa, can work 20 hours a week while they are studying at the university. The second thing is that there are an option called OPT, which is optional practical training, which the majority of people do upon completion of their degree. But that allows, depending on the field of study, allows you to stay in the United States from a year up to 21 months, where you can work otherwise. So there are options to learn while you're working. Also, some schools do offer CPT, which is curriculum practical training, as part of your degree, where you would actually work while you're studying. Another question that came in was about from a person who's a married student and asking, what's available. If you are a student and you are married, your spouse is allowed to apply for a visa called an F2, which is for spouse or children, and they may accompany you to the United States. The onus is on the applicants to ensure that they have enough money to support themselves there, but families are welcome to accompany bona fide students to the United States. The one thing that isn't available, as asked in this question, is for parents to be able to go. Of course, your parents are welcome to apply for a tourist visa to go visit you while you're studying, and we're sure they would want to. There is no visa category eligible for them to live with you while you're studying. But going back to the process, so the visa process is very straightforward for students that are admitted. Someone asked what the criteria is. Every student that comes to apply for a visa must demonstrate that they're a bona fide student. It does not matter what course you're planning to study. What matters is that you're a credible student. People choose to study different fields for different reasons, so there's no quota or limit on any particular field. You, as the applicant, though, have to be able to explain why you chose this and why this field is relevant to what you want to do. That leads into your credibility as a student. In addition, another requirement is that students must demonstrate that they have enough liquid assets or cash available to pay for their first year of study, and they must be able to explain in general terms how they're going to pay for their subsequent year of studies. I know there are many rumors out there about different types of payments, and I'm here to tell you they're not true. So having a loan does not necessarily mean a negative thing about you. Many people do fund their education from loans. Having a family member or a group of family members support you is not negative. I mean, if your family members have enough faith in you to lend you a lot of money to go to the United States, it can feed into the credibility of a student. There are no right or wrong answers. The only thing that's the right answer is the truth. So you need to just be able to come in and articulate that everything around why you're a credible student, what you plan to study and why. And then you need to be able to talk about how you're going to fund your education. The third thing you will need is you will need your I-20 from the school that you're admitted to. So you should really only be getting an I-20 from a school you plan to attend. If a school is sending you an I-20 without any kind of commitment, that tends to be a red flag about the school. But you come in with the I-20 of the university or college that you plan to attend and all the information that you are able to provide about your credibility as a student and your efforts to pay. And the final thing you need to do is pay an additional fee called a SEVIS fee, which is required by all students. Once you have that, you're ready to go for your interview. Usually people come in a few months before school starts. We can't issue a visa until 120 days or less before school starts. And you're not allowed to enter the United States more than 30 days before the start of school. But otherwise, the visa process, if you've gone through the whole school application and completed all your applications to different colleges and universities, the visa part is just a formality at the end and should be very easy and straightforward for all credible students. In terms of other questions, I know many of you are asking questions about funding and scholarship, and that's something that's going to require research on your end. As Faith mentioned, there are schools that give out all different kinds of aid, and we suggest that you work with Education USA to help identify the proper school for you. They do have information available about all kinds of fairs and when universities visit to actually get to meet students firsthand. But let me turn it back to Faith for a minute, who can tell you some more information about locations and where to get Education USA resources.
Thank you, Rachel. So the headquarters and the main office is at the U.S. Embassy. That's where you will find us. And then you can also find us in other places outside of the embassy, and we call these spaces American spaces. So the first one is Nakuru at the Kenya National Library Services. We have an American space, and you can get information about studying in the US, and there are also books for test practice that you can check out from the library and that you can use to prepare for the test that you are required to take. Other than that, you can also find us in Mombasa. At Mewa, we have an American space there, and again, you can find resources that you require. We are also present in Lamu, and the fourth place that we are present is at Moi University, just here in town at the CBD, at the Bazaar building on the 5th floor. We have an American space there. So those are the 4 satellite places that you can find us outside the embassy. But most of the time, we are here at the embassy, and we are glad to assist you. And maybe you were asking, what resources will I find if I visited you? You will find test preparation materials, and you'll also find books that are going to help you in your research in terms of trying to figure out which school is good for me and what are the schools asking for in terms of application requirements. The other resources that you can find here is internet. We have internet that students come and use to conduct their research, and we also have the computers that you can use here. The other thing that we can help you do is sometimes once you've gone through this session is request for a one-on-one meeting with me, and I am glad to meet you and answer questions that you might be having that are so specific to either the course that you're applying or even to you as an individual. And maybe at this point I'd like to answer Kumar's question, who's asking, are there applications for financial aid for 2018-2019 open? Yes, we are right now in the application cycle, which started on August 1st and it's closing generally on January 15th. So this is the time for you to apply to school. And you need to ask yourself, do I have all the application requirements that the school is asking for? And if you do, it's time for you to apply. Once this application cycle is through, then you will have to wait until 2018, same time. Back to you, Rachel.
Okay. Again, I see many people on here asking questions about different types of visas. We're very glad that you want to travel to the United States to visit your family and friends. And we encourage you to visit our website. It has complete information about different types of visas. we're not going to be able to address them here. But going back to the student visa and questions, again, most people seem to be focused on wanting to get a scholarship to be able to study, which I completely understand. But that's part of your research that you're doing to select your school. There are many factors that go into deciding the right school, and that includes everything from course of study, weather, if you have family, if it's near family in the U.S., or some people like to be as far away as possible, and costs. Costs vary greatly. So you need to look at your budget and make a budget, and then look at schools and see what kind of scholarships and financial aid they give out when making your selection. Getting financial aid and scholarships are completely separate than the visa process. You need to have all of that sorted out and all of your funding planned before you come in for your visa interview. And we have a very good question here from somebody who is finishing up high school, who's asking about TOEFL, or the Test of English as a Foreign Language score, for the application process. I'm going to hand that over to Faith, who works with students on these tests, to explain a little more about that.
All right, thank you, Rachel. So when we come to the TOEFL, as Rachel has said, the Test of English as a Foreign Language, there are schools that are going to require you to show your English proficiency test. And where can you take the test? You will need to go to LTS, that's Learning Testing Services. They are located at Taj Towers, Upper Hill. It's almost opposite Upper Hill School. And you will see on your left opposite Upper Hill School, you will see a standalone building, and you will find LTS in that building. And you will need to go there for your registration and for them to place you and let you know when you will need to take the test. It costs approximately $160 for that test. But when you come to us, we can give you resources for the TOEFL test that you can use to prepare. And I'd also like to use this opportunity to also tell you that that is the same testing center for the SAT test that the undergraduate students require to take. I can see many questions for our master's students, and we are going to address the application for grad school after talking about the visa interview. So just hold on, and we will talk about applying to graduate schools. But I'm going just to talk about tests. You need to prepare for the test because before you take it, because you will need to score very highly. The schools are looking at particular scores. Each school is looking for a certain score, a certain cutoff in the various courses that you're going to take. And it's very important for you to practice for the test. They say practice makes perfect, and that's true. So take as many online tests as you possibly can, and then go and take the actual test. It's going to put you in a good place when you finally take it.
Yeah. Going back to the TOEFL test and required tests, at your visa interview, we are not there to second guess the admission officers of the universities. So the universities themselves will decide if you need a TOEFL test, an SAT, a GRE, or any different kind of test. That's part of the admissions process. So you do not have to take the test just for your visa interview. We will, however, we may ask you about your tests, we may ask you about scores, and, we will be conducting the interview in English, unless you're applying for a program where English language proficiency is not required. And that does happen with certain programs. So again, anything is possible. Some students from different parts of the world choose to go to the United States to study English. So again, we only ask about test scores, but there are no test scores that are required at all as part of the visa interview. It's all part of the university and college application process. But I just wanted to touch on some other questions that we have about visas that come up very frequently. One is people ask how long the student visa is valid for. As a general rule, if you are issued a student visa, it's valid for 5 years or 60 months. However, what matters is when you're actually at school. If you're in a 2-year program and you finish and you complete your OPT, then your visa's done with, even if it has a longer validity, because you are no longer a student, you've graduated. Same thing, if you happen to be in a course of study and it takes longer than 5 years, it's not a problem because you can come back in and renew your visa and be able to return to the United States to complete your study. What really matters is that you use your student visa only if and when you're planning to study in the United States. Doing so for other purposes can result in a permanent bar to the United States. Key things to remember as you work through the visa application process for your student visa or any visa in general is to ensure that you have a passport that has a length of validity on it of at least 6 months, because that's required to enter most countries, including the United States. You'll need to have a current photo for your application form, and you'll need to have all of your documents related to your studying, specifically your I-20 and your paid SEVIS fee. You may also choose to bring along additional information, your transcripts, test scores, but none of that is required at the interview. Again, the question keeps coming up about course of study, and we're here to tell you that if you go to an accredited school in the United States, any course of study is valid. You just have to show how that is valid and relevant to you and demonstrates that you are a credible student. We issue visas all the time for people to studying in community colleges, for bachelor's or undergraduate degrees, and for graduate students. We are not here to guess and question your choice of school during a visa interview, but you must be able to articulate why you chose that school and how that's relevant for what you plan. And that, again, all plays into being a credible student. If you are married and traveling with your family, your minor children are allowed to attend public school in the United States while you're on your student visa. And your spouse is able to join you, but they are not able to work. There are a few graduate programs that issue a different kind of visa, which is a J visa for graduate students. And in those cases, usually spouses are allowed to work. We're just trying to see if you have more questions in here. I know I did see a question from some people outside of Kenya who asked if they are able to apply here. The U.S. State Department's worldwide policy is that you can apply in any post you want to, but you do just have to be able to articulate why you're here and what your plans are. But if for some reason it's more convenient for you to apply in Kenya instead of your home country because you're here, then you're very welcome to do that.
I would like to answer this question from a student who is asking if they can work to pay their school fees when they are in the US. We have work-study programs, but the amount of money that you receive is not enough for you to pay for your school fees. It's just money that allows you to cater for your living costs. And then again, you can only work for 20 hours a week when you are during the course of study, but during the summer break you can work up to 40 hours a week. But then again, you can only work within the institution because that's what your visa requirements rules are. And I'm going to ask Rachel to shed light on working in the university and what the visa rules are.
Yeah. So yeah, as Faith mentioned, on a student visa you can work for 20 hours a week in the university, but again, in most cases that will not cover all of your school fees. And then upon graduation, there is a program available called Optional Practical Training, or OPT, which allows people to work for either 1 year or 21 months, depending on their course of study. And you do need to work in a field related to your degree. So there are options for working, but unfortunately, most people are not able to 100% fund their education only through work options in the United States. I did see a question here from somebody asking about a friend who had previously applied for a visitor visa a couple years ago and now wants to apply for a student visa, and they wonder if that's contradictory. Absolutely not at all. People are allowed to hold more than one type of visa. And there's nothing wrong with saying a couple years ago I went because I wanted to go visit the United States and tour around, and now I've decided that I want to study in the United States. In fact, it actually seems quite logical. So there's no problem with having had or having a valid tourist visa and then applying for a student visa. But someone here is asking about getting study materials and resources to apply for tests. So I'm going to ask Faith to expand a little bit on what kind of resources are available for people looking into standardized testing.
All right, so what we have is books. We have actual books that you can come and borrow, and then you can also come and use them here. But, times are changing, so most of the up-to-date information that you are going to find is definitely going to be on certain websites. For example, for students who are taking the SAT test, and these are undergraduate students, we refer them to Khan Academy. That's Khan, Khan Academy, and they have all the resources that you require for the test that you're going to take, either SAT 1 or the SAT subject test. And then when you're thinking about business schools and you're a graduate student, then we refer you to go to mba.com, and you're going to find resources in terms of choosing schools and the tests. And again, you could also go to ets.org for students who are thinking about the GRE test and you're thinking about social sciences, arts and humanities in the US, so you will be required to take the GRE test. What does this mean? That at every stage of you going to study in the US, there is a test that is going to be required. However, we are seeing schools becoming test optional. That means that not all the schools today are requiring you to take the SAT test or the ACT test for undergraduate students. But if you will require funding from the university, for you to come out as a competitive student, you will require to take these tests. And so you can come to us and we will give you the books for you to borrow or books for you to use at the centers that we have, or you could also use the internet for you to access the information on the internet. And I would encourage you to use the online resources because they are up to date and they're free and you can access them anywhere. At this point, I'd like to answer a question again about which schools offer financial aid. Almost all universities in the US offer financial aid, but to certain percentages. There are schools that only offer partial scholarships, and there are also institutions that offer full scholarships. And again, that's where we go back to the question of research. Have you conducted a proper research in terms of the financial aid that you're looking for? Are you looking at 100%? Then you will need to check the financial aid policies of these institutions and see if they can give you 100% scholarships. If you need a partial scholarships, the universities again that give 100% aid can still give you the percentage that you need, because we need to understand that most US universities will give us 100% of our demonstrated need. What need are you demonstrating? Are you demonstrating that my family can pay zero, so I need the school to give me 100%? They will give you that 100% of your demonstrated need.
I'm going to jump in. We have a couple more questions here. First, someone asked about the size of the photo required for an F1 visa. That information is all on our website, so you don't have to remember it. But basically, we look for a 2-inch by 2-inch photo on a white background. It's very straightforward. We have another question from someone who says, I did medium in high school and I have a diploma from a recognized Kenyan university. Can I apply for an undergraduate degree in the US? You can apply for whatever degree you want at any point. But when you come in for your visa interview, you will need to be able to explain why someone with a degree from a credible Kenyan university is going for a U.S. undergraduate degree. It can totally make sense if you can explain it, but it can also not make sense, in which case you wouldn't demonstrate that you're a credible student. Sometimes students do that when they change field or they want to study something different or a different aspect. So as long as you can explain to the officer why you're doing that, it's neither a positive or a negative for a visa interview. And again, we're not here to second guess admissions officers or help people on the visa line, help people determine where and what to study. So yes, you could possibly do that and get a visa. You just have to be able to articulate why. And then there's another question that asks, if I'm coming in for a visa interview, do I need my own bank statement or is a company allowed to sponsor me? Anybody or any organization is allowed to fund your education. That's up to you. We see all different combinations of ways that people pay for their education. You just need to be able to demonstrate it and explain why. But absolutely, I mean, if you're lucky enough that your company is going to fund your education, that's great, and there's no problem with that. Again, going back to this question of I have a diploma in journalism. Can I apply for a degree in journalism in the U.S.? You absolutely can, and you can qualify for a student visa, but you need to just explain your motivation behind it and what makes you a credible student. But sometimes, people study a field in their home country and then go to the United States to continue their education in the same field. There's no problem with that situation.
And just to add to what Rachel is saying, you also need to find out how many credits can you transfer to the institution that you want to apply to. Some institutions will say you can only transfer up to 9 credits from your diploma for you to go and continue with your undergraduate degree. But you also need to understand that if you have gone through 3 years of a diploma course here, then when you're applying to U.S. universities, you're going now to study for another 2 years, and then you will graduate with your undergraduate degree. And yes, you can definitely move from a journalism school here and go to the US to continue studying journalism. That is possible. And then I'd like to respond to Ndumia, who asks, are there schools of aviation in the USA that offer scholarships? Yes, there are, but they do not offer 100%. For anyone who is going to study aviation, you cannot get 100% scholarship, and your family will need to have some savings that they can use to pay for your education.
Okay, we're running out of time and we're about to wrap up, but I do see some more questions about children. Someone asked us to clarify for a friend about whether if somebody does have children and they are going to study in the United States, are their children able to go with them? The answer is yes. There is a category that is available for spouse and children to accompany credible students in the United States. The onus is on the applicants and the family as a whole to demonstrate that they have sufficient funds to support the wife or husband and children in the United States while they're studying. So yes, by all means, if you're a student with a family, they are welcome to join you as long as you can fund it. So I think we're pretty close to wrapping up. We thank you so much for coming today. If you have further questions, you can always continue to drop them in the comment box and we'll get back to you. But just a reminder that if you need student visa information or any type of visa information, it is all available on our website, broken down by category. And Faith will remind you how to get in touch with Education USA.
Thank you, Rachel. If you want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email at nairobiedusa@state.gov, nairobiedusa@state.gov. You can also visit us here at the embassy, and we will be glad to meet with you. And when can you come see us? You can come on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m., but it's by appointment. So what you need to do, you need to call us on 020-363-6439, 020-363-6439 for you to book an appointment to meet with us on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday as from 2 to 4 p.m. And then we send a lot of our information to students using the U.S. Embassy website. So when you go to the U.S. Embassy website, and the resources, look for Education USA, and we are always updating that webpage with new information. And we hope that you will continue to keep in touch with us, and we look forward to helping you. Thank you.
Okay. I see somebody asking us to repeat the contact information, so we'll make sure that we will type it down below so it'll be there for your reference. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to speak with you today. And we hope to see many of you on the visa line in the next coming months applying for a student visa. Thank you very much.